The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
There was a Bachur in Itri in Yeshiva where I was. An Israeli Bachur. At the time he was 42 years old. He tried and tried for so many years never to marry. And for so many years people have told him, go to Rabbi Shimon. Go to Rabbi Shimon. What do you have to lose? Go Lag BaOmer, go pray. Pour your heart out. Kedai l'smoch on Rabbi Shimon, the Gemara tells us. So one year he decided, I remember I was there in Yeshiva that year. One year he decided, and he went back. He went all the way out to Meron, and he spent the day, and he prayed his heart out to Rabbi Shimon. He said, Rabbi Shimon, Kedai l'smoch, Amin somech, help me, speak on my behalf. At the end of that day, he's standing outside, and he's waiting, and he's waiting, and he's waiting for a bus to come. He's waiting for a bus to come. And the bus to Yerushalayim, it's so many buses, and so many were packed, he couldn't get on a bus that had an empty seat. And he's waiting for an empty bus to come. Till finally a car pulls right up, and an older man looks out and says, where are you going? And he says, I'm going back to Yerushalayim. He says, oh, come. I'm also going to Yerushalayim. I'll give you a lift. He comes into the car. They start driving to Yerushalayim. They start talking about Rabbi Shimon. The old man asks him, why did you come? I asked Rabbi Shimon for a shidduch. I'm 42 years old. The old man says, 1 second. Tell me, what's your name? And he tells him his name. And he says, that name is so familiar. Your face is so familiar to me. Let me ask you, I don't mean to be personal, but did you ever go out with my daughter? And he gave him the name, and he thought about it for a minute. He says, yeah, I did. That was the first girl I went out with. It was almost 20 years ago, but that was the first girl I went out with. Your daughter. The man looks at him and says, well, my daughter, the reason why I'm here by Rabbi Shimon was to pray for my daughter, who's 37 years old and never got married. What do you think? You think this is a coincidence? What do you think? Would you go out with my daughter again? And he says, absolutely, I'd love to. The next night he took this girl out. It took no more than 2.5 weeks. Rabbi Shimon waits no time. And there he was by the L'chaim. Walking out of the grave. He's walking out of the kever of Rabbi Shimon. He was walking out. All those buses were full. For a good reason. Take a look. Kedai l'smoch al Rabbi Shimon b'sha'at hadachak. And there are so many of these stories, hundreds, maybe more, open miracles that take place on Lag BaOmer every year. Now you're thinking, well, Rabbi, I don't have a ticket. So what am I supposed to do? I'm here in Brooklyn, New York. Well, I have some warming words for you tonight. And this is something that I heard from a great tzaddik in Eretz Yisrael and Mekubal, a very close friend of mine, who, the truth of the matter is, he was only 28, 29 years old. He wasn't like the other guy. But he also was going out and going out and going out, and he couldn't find a girl. There was a problem, though. He's a Kohen. And because he was a Kohen, he couldn't go to the grave of Rabbi Shimon. So he went and he asked this tzaddik that I took him to, he says, I want to go, but I can't. I'm a Kohen. Yes, I know there's a place for Kohanim. They sit him on the outside. But he said, once I'm not going into the kever, once I'm standing outside of the kever, what's the difference to Rabbi Shimon if I'm standing 10 feet outside or 500 miles outside? He can still see me, right? The tzaddik says, you're absolutely right. Stay here in Yerushalayim. Don't make the trip. But when you sit down to pray, on Lag BaOmer, say Borei Olam. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai told Am Yisrael on the day of his Hilula, on the day of his Yortzeit, Am Yisrael should be Sameach. They should be happy. They should make Seudot. They should sing. They should dance. And they should pray to Hashem in the Zechut of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And says Rabbi Shimon, like the Gemara tells us, Kedai l'smoch alai. You can rely on me. I'll take care of you. I'll talk on your behalf. Stay in Jerusalem. Stay in New York. Stay in Brooklyn. But when you pray, light a candle for Rabbi Shimon. Pray your heart out over Tehillim and say, Rabbi Shimon, you told us to be somech on you. I'm coming now to be somech. Please intercede. Speak on my behalf. Today, look, I lit the candle. I'm giving tzedakah. I'm making a little seudah. Now please go on my behalf and speak. Kedai, it's kedai to be somech Rabbi Shimon. No matter what it is that you need in life. Lag BaOmer is an unbelievable opportunity. Rabbi Shimon is there to help us.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org